superhero costumes. These things can be hard to adapt into live action, and sometimes they nail it, and sometimes they don't.
Hello.
Not right now.
Aw.
Which ones are the worst? Which ones are the best? Have they gotten better over the years? Have they gotten worse? Let's find out today when I rank every single superhero suit ever put to film. Alright guys, I'm going to be honest, I can't do the whole thing in the mask. Oh my gosh, that thing is 1,000,000 degrees. By the way, if you saw my previous video, the costumes aren't going to be like a thing every single time. I just happen to have some that worked for this. So today we're going to be ranking every live action superhero suit ever. Mostly. Okay, don't click off. This isn't clickbait, okay? Let me explain the rules here, because there's a lot of suits to go through. First, I'm only talking about Marvel and DC, so I'm sorry if you came here to see me talk about Homelander's tight little ass. Second, I'm only talking about the movies and any of those shows that are part of the MCU. And I threw in a couple CW suits just for fun. Also, the movies have to have been released by now, for the most part. Third, I'm only doing the good guys here. This is superhero costumes. So don't expect me to talk about the Joker or the Suicide Squad or Thanos or anything like that. There's a lot of costumes to get through. That's a future video, okay? Fourth, look, there's a lot of characters that show up in multiple movies, and in each one they have slight variations of their costumes. I'm not going to talk about all those. Whenever there's a slight variation, I'm just going to combine them all into one. Also, with team outfits where they're all largely wearing the same thing, I'm grouping those all together too. Do I really need to tell you which X-Men looks the best in black leather? We all know the answer is Patrick Stewart. Finally, no cartoons. I think that goes without saying, but those have an unfair advantage when adapting comic books. Now, I know you're all eager to hear my opinion so that you can yell at me in the comments, but I do want to go through what I personally think makes a good superhero costume, because I think that there are two important attributes. Number one is obviously comic book accuracy. If you didn't know that this movie existed, if you just saw a picture of this character, would you be able to immediately recognize that it was this character? But two, the fact that I think people don't always keep in mind, but I think it's also very important, is how well does this outfit fit into the world that this movie is telling? I'm sure you have your opinions on the Ben Affleck suit and the Adam West Batman suit, but undeniably, if you were to swap these costumes in their movies, neither movie would work at all. Also, it should go without being said, but the quality of these movies isn't a factor at all here. Now, with all that being said, we have 143 of these motherfuckers to get through, so let's jump into it. All right, the worst superhero costume of all time, number 143, is, drum roll please. Yeah, okay, so you probably could have expected that the guy dressed in the Deadpool costume is going to put the Deadpool from X-Men Origins Wolverine as last place. Also, you probably are thinking to yourself, oh, and I bet he put the new Deadpool costume as number one so that he can have this cool full circle moment where he goes from the worst costume to the best costume being Deadpool. Hey, okay, listen, you don't know me, all right? You gotta watch to the end to see what I put as number one, all right? Listen, I'm not revealing anything to you. You don't know me, all right? There's twists and turns in this list. Trust me. But hear me out, because I really do think that this is the worst suit that we've ever had in live action. Doing this list, I've realized that there's two things that superhero suits tend to get wrong that make them not work. Number one is they're too embarrassed to embrace what makes the comic version of this character work. And so they strip away iconic attributes of these characters. Think, Wolverine's yellow and his mask, stuff like that. The second thing that they do is they over-design and they overcomplicate it. They add a bunch of unnecessary lines and textures, and it looks like a mess. This suit somehow manages to do both. It takes away every recognizable part of the Deadpool outfit. There's no red, he has no mask on, he has no mouth, and instead, they replace it with a bunch of over-designed shit that wasn't even there to begin with. Like, maybe you could make the argument that these lines here are supposed to be like the pattern here on the suit, but they really don't resemble it that well. So I do think that this is the worst suit. Like, I can understand the mindset behind a lot of these bad costumes with the studio executives, but this one I still am baffled by to this day. All right, next at 142, we have Age of Ultron's Quicksilver. Now, this is one of those prime examples of a costume where they strip away every iconic attribute of a costume, and we end up with a guy with bleached hair in athletic shorts. Genuinely one of the worst attempts I've ever seen at a superhero costume in the MCU, but hey, at least we don't have to see it for very long. Number 141, we have Iron Fist. This is another one of those where they just kind of were too embarrassed to do the original costume and put them in normal clothes. The only reason this one's a little bit higher is because I think the normal clothes fit a little bit more contextually within the style of this show. This guy isn't going up against an evil robot in Adidas. Number 140, we have the Scarlet Witch in Avengers Age of Ultron. She obviously gets better costumes down the road, but here it just looks awful. The only reason that she's a little bit higher than everyone else is because she at least looks a little bit witchy. Number 139, we have the Thor suit from Thor Love and Thunder. You may think that this is a little harsh putting this low, but I think while those other ones were the best examples that we have of under-designing, this is the best example we have of over-designing. There's just so much going on here, and the helmet looks so bad with the CG effects, and it's a real shame because I think that the rest of the costumes in this movie look really fantastic. Number 138, we have the weird Flash Batman suit from The Flash. I guess this idea is kind of cute in theory, like the idea of a Batman costume being repurposed into a Flash costume, but the execution is so rough. I hate how the mask looks with the ears cut off. I hate all the caution tape covering it. It doesn't really look like Batman or the Flash. Man, this costume is really hot. Number 137, we have the Fanforstic suits. While I appreciate that they tried to implement some realistic elements to these costumes, like you've got the elastic straps here on Mr. Fantastic, and you've got whatever these things are on Johnny, which are some sort of like heat thing. I don't know. But here's the problem. If the thing wasn't in this picture, you would have no idea that these are supposed to be the Fantastic Four. They have no recognizable attributes about them whatsoever. And speaking of the thing, good Lord, why is he naked? Is it really unrealistic to give the giant orange rock monster pants? It looks so weird that he's got that shit hanging out. And I understand that the general public may find the Fantastic Four's costumes cheesy, but there's no way that the number 4 is too ridiculous of a concept to even include it on the costume. That's like the one requirement. All right, number 136. I think this is the costume from Iron Fist Season 2. To be completely honest with you, I'm not 100% sure. I never really watched the show. But, I want to give credit where it's due. The mask looks pretty good. The rest of this looks like a kid's karate costume. Also, if you're wondering where other Netflix characters like Jessica Jones or Luke Cage are, those guys wear normal clothes in the comics, and they wear normal clothes in the shows, so I don't really know how to rank them, so they're not on here. Number 135, we have the Batfleck suit from The Flash. So let's start with the positives. I like the gray and the blue. I really hope that in the DCU we get a similar color scheme here. I think that it's working really well. The cons, everything else. I hate this armor. It looks so ass. I don't know what they were thinking here. There's just all these like little holes in it and stuff, and it doesn't look like Batman at all. Also, I love the Affleck cowl, but it looks just a little off here. Like it looks like someone sat on it and it got a little smushed. I don't know. He kind of looks like a bulldog. Doesn't he? I don't know. It looks a little off. It's just, this suit is not it, but it could have been so good. Number 134, we have the X-Men suits from X-Men Apocalypse. You have taken one of the most visually distinct teams in all of comics, and you have put them in black hockey pads with no distinctions between them whatsoever. Number 133, we have the Inside Out suit from Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm so serious. I think this is only in the movie because they could briefly show a black suit in the trailer and people would be like, oh my God, is the symbiote in this movie? And like, yeah, toys, but what loser-ass kid wants an Inside Out Spider-Man toy? That just sounds gross. Number 132, Wasp from Ant-Man and the Wasp. Quantumania. No, not Quantumania. The other one. Normal one. Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think that if you didn't know that this actress played this character and you saw this picture, you would not be able to tell what character this is supposed to be. Number 131, Gamora. Yeah, I mean, like, this one's not bad, I guess. Like, I don't have too much to say about it. The green looks good, but she's just kind of in normal clothes. Like, a little bit of armor or something I think would have been nice. But yeah, like, good character. I like the movies, but like, the costume is just like, it's barely even a costume. Number 130, Shang-Chi. Do you really need me to waste your time talking about the Shang-Chi costume? Number 129, The Amazing Spider-Man homemade suit. Look, it's a homemade suit. It doesn't need to be anything amazing, but this one just has no charm or personality compared to the other two. Number 128, Hawkeye. I picked this suit because they finally gave him a little bit of purple, and Girl Hawkeye also goes in this spot because they have matching outfits like a couple of little cuties. Number 127, speaking of boring losers with arrows, number 126 is the Days of Future Past X-Men suits. Once again, we have completely dropped the ball on the X-Men. The only reason these are a little higher than the other ones is there is some slight variation between the suits. But man, like, I get that they're trying to make this look cool and post-apocalyptic, but this is like what a 12-year-old thinks is edgy. Number 125, Nebula. Like, the makeup and the prosthetics look really good on her, but again, we're just looking at generic space clothes here. Like, it doesn't compare to some of these other costumes. Number 124, we have the Halloween costume for Vision from WandaVision. And this one's a hard one to put because, like, it's obviously supposed to be a joke. It's not supposed to look good, but there is a certain amount of charm to it that I think something like the homemade suit from Amazing Spider-Man doesn't have. Like, yeah, he's wearing basketball shorts, but I think that it's funny and it's intentionally bad. Obviously, I would never want to see anything like this for the actual Vision, but I think it's fun in the context of the show. 123, we have Cyborg from the Justice League, and maybe this one's a little low, but man, I hate this shit. He's so over-designed. I hate this weird nanotechy look, and his head looks so awkward floating on the rest of this CGI body, and their solution to this is to just put him in a hoodie half the time, and that looks bad in its own way. I just am not a fan of this, and it's such a shame because there are so many great suits in the Justice League movie that they really dropped the ball on this one. Number 122, these suits from Batman and Robin. Of these three, Batman definitely looks the worst. I hate these, like, vents on his mask. Like, what are these, like, exhaust grills? Also, all these random shapes all over the body just do not work for me at all. Overall, I'd say Robin looks a little bit better, although I don't know why him and Batman have these silver plates over their dicks. Like, what's going on there? Overall, I would say that it goes Batgirl, Robin, Batman on these. Number 121. So you may be surprised that the Kilmer suit is ranked lower than the Nipples Bat suit, but man, I just am not a fan of this. Like, the cowl looks weird, and I'm not a fan of the muscle design. He just kind of looks like a car. This is not working for me. Number 120, Elektra. Points for trying, I guess. My biggest problem with this is she doesn't even wear the bandana. And I get that we can't necessarily put her in the revealing red dress, but skinny jeans are not the right choice. Number 119, we have Night Monkey. He looks like if Spider-Man joined the X-Men from X-Men Apocalypse. It works enough in the context of the movie, but this is not the kind of suit that I would want to see come back. Number 118, Star-Lord. I like the mask, and the jackets in 1 and 2 look good, but I like it when superheroes are dressed like superheroes. Sorry. Number 117, Falcon. Pretty generic looking, but the wings are cool. Number 116, Valkyrie. Pretty generic looking, but the cape is cool. 115, we got Cyclone from Black Adam. I'm not going to pretend like I have any investment in the character of Cyclone or really know what they look like, but I'm just not a fan of this outfit. I think the colors are kind of bad, and it's just not that interesting visually. Not a fan. Number 114. The bat nipples. We've arrived. Honestly, all things considered, I don't hate this suit that much. There are just a few things I would change. Like, obviously, the nipples. But my bigger concern here is just the fact that it's all one color. It looks like they forgot to paint it. If they put a little bit of color in the logo and the belt to make those pop, I think that this suit would actually be pretty good. Number 113. Same situation here, basically, but I think the red and black work out better than just silver. Number 112. I don't think that it's a hot take to say that this is the worst of the main Spider-Man suits. Like, yeah, there are other ones that are lower here, but this was the one that was the main suit for this movie. And it's just so unnecessary. We're taking two completely different suits that were never meant to be combined and combining them, and it looks so awkward and just ugly and the colors clash. And I'm really upset that this is the suit that Tom Holland was wearing when he met Andrew and Toby. Number 111. I feel like my ideal version of a live action Vision is somewhere between this and the Halloween version, because that other one didn't look good, but it had a ton of personality and charm, and this is just so lifeless and bland. Number 110. She-Hulk. I honestly don't think this is that bad. I think that her design, like as a character, is pretty good. Like, yeah, the CG is a little spotty at some points in the show, but it's a Disney Plus show, so I'll give it a bit of a pass. And I like the purple outfit that she ends up wearing. Like, yeah, would I prefer to see something a little bit more fun like in the comics? I guess. 109. I actually don't mind the design of this Captain Marvel suit. I just hate how dark the colors are. If they had the colors of her normal suit, I think that this would actually be really high. Number 108, the Elementals are the superhero suits of all time. Number 107, yeah, I don't really know what we are going for with this Flash costume. I hate all the random wires everywhere and the unnecessary detail, but credit where it's due, I think that this is the best looking mask for the Flash. The other costumes didn't quite figure out how to make his head not look gigantic. Number 106, I love the original Shazam costume, and it's crazy how this one is basically a downgrade in every single way. It has absolutely no personality and looks incredibly generic, and it ties with the rest of the Shazamly. Number 105, it's fine, I guess. I don't know. Listen, we have a lot of these to get through. Let's keep it moving. Number 104. I appreciate that the X-Men finally have their iconic colors, but this is still like the most generic and safe look that you could possibly go for these characters. Number 103. The white looks pretty cool, I guess. Number 102. Cable himself, I think, looks pretty cool here. And I'm not asking for his bright yellow and blue outfit, because I think that having him be darker and edgier than Deadpool works in the context of the movie. But like, god damn it, give him something better than a fucking t-shirt to wear. Give him some sort of futuristic armor. If he was wearing what the X-Men wore in X-Men Apocalypse, I think it would be an improvement. Number 101, the Endgame Iron Man suit. Spotty CGI aside, I'm just not a fan of this look. I don't like when the Iron Man suit is too streamlined. I like it when it's a little bulky, a little chunky. This is probably the weakest Iron Man suit for me. Number 100. Congrats to Sam Raimi for putting Tobey Maguire in a red ski mask and t-shirt and cracking the top 100. Number 99. This Aquaman design's fine. I just think it doesn't even come close to comparing to the other Aquaman costumes that we get later. Number 98. This costume is basically the same as the other Robin costume, but with better colors. And honestly, this is a pretty solid attempt at converting this costume into live action. A for effort. Number 97. I think that the Daredevil suit is pretty good. But if we're looking at it objectively here, I think people maybe overhype this suit a little bit too much because the suit is good. I think this suit has a lot of the same pitfalls that a lot of the Marvel suits have that people complain about. I think it's over-designed. I don't like everything going on here. And the fabric is like a weird choice for someone who's an acrobat. The mask looks great. The colors are a little washed out and boring, but I guess that makes sense for the context of the show. Overall, it's pretty good, but I think that the new one that's going to be in the new show is going to be ranked a lot higher. The only problem is I wish that at least once they'd put the fucking logo on his chest. Okay. I know people are going to be upset that I put this one higher, but hear me out. Well, in the comics, the red and yellow color scheme is not my personal favorite. I do think that it works a little bit better than the maroon and black that they had in the original show. While the yellow and red color scheme isn't my favorite look, I don't mind it too much, and I think that this costume actually streamlines a lot from the original version. I like the collar, and I like the yellow accents on it, because here it feels like they're accents to highlight the yellow parts of the costume, and not just here because, well, it's unrealistic and cheesy if we have too much red on the costume. But listen, they're very close in quality. There's almost 150 suits on this list, and they are right next to each other, okay? Do not hate on me that much. God, this suit's riding up. Number 95. The Black Adam costume changes a little bit throughout the movie, but overall I think it's pretty solid. I think it could have looked a lot better if The Rock put his ego aside and was willing to embrace some of the comic book silliness and not just be concerned with looking like an epic action hero. Number 94. The MCU Iron Spider suit. I mean, This looks pretty good. What does the original Iron Spider suit look like from the comics? Let me look this up. Holy shit, dude, this thing is awesome. Dude, this has way more sauce. In a bubble, the MCU suit is fine, but we could have had something like this. Number 93, we got the Guardian suits from Volume 3. They look pretty good. Maybe I guess they could be a little bit brighter, but otherwise, I don't really have anything to say. They look good, and I'm glad they got to wear them. Number 92. This is a weird one because it doesn't really make sense for Thor to be wearing this, but at the same time, it's kind of fun and it doesn't overstay its welcome, so I'll give it a pass. Number 91. So again, I think this is a similar sort of thing to the Captain America costume where it's supposed to look goofy on purpose. But honestly, if you fix the mask and maybe made it out of a better material, I think we have a really solid Captain America design here. All right, number 90, I'm just going to put both of the Punisher costumes. They look exactly the same. They look as good as you would expect a guy in a trench coat with a white skull on his chest to look. All right, I put Nightcrawler separate from the rest of the X-Men because I think that his design is distinct enough to be talked about on his own. And I think that overall this works pretty well. The random lines on his face, I don't love. It's like they did the MCU over-design thing, but on skin. It's just kind of a weird look. And also, I'm pretty sure in the comics, the blue is actually supposed to be fur, not just blue skin. I don't know if that would work in live action, especially back then when everything had to be prosthetic. But it would be worth trying nowadays. And like a lot of this X-Men stuff from this era, I wish the colors were a little bit brighter, but otherwise, this is a solid attempt at Nightcrawler. Number 88. Listen, I know people creamed their jeans when they saw these at the end of X-Men Apocalypse. Dark Phoenix? Which one was this? But listen, that's like if you hadn't eaten in 5 days and someone gave you a bag of stale Cheetos. You'd probably think it was the best thing ever. Like, yeah, these are technically speaking the most comic accurate versions of these costumes, but they're still so clearly ashamed to fully embrace what makes those costumes work. They're doing the bare minimum, and it feels like a costume that's embarrassed of itself. Maybe this is a hot take, but I would rather have strong art direction in a superhero suit that looks nothing like the comic version than a comic accurate version that doesn't really work that well. Number 87, Spy Kids 3D, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania has incredibly overdesigned suits, but the colors pop. Number 86, yeah, this is a serviceable Aquaman costume. Number 85, The Flash from The Flash. I have mixed feelings on this suit. I like the simplicity of this suit, and in this state, I wish there was a bit more gold prominent, but I guess it does light up and that does improve it. But honestly, my biggest problem with it is Ezra Miller's big dumb fucking head in it. It looks so bad. They just look so weird. And part of that is the spotty CGI, but I think even in shots where it's supposed to be practical, it just doesn't look great. A for effort, though. Number 84. The CW Supergirl suit is decent. The colors are a bit unnecessarily washed out, but it's Supergirl. Number 83. This isn't my favorite look for Groot, but it doesn't suck. I don't hate it. Number 82. The Drax prosthetics look really good on Batista. I don't know. I kind of wish he was green, but maybe that looked bad. Overall, it's pretty solid. Number 81. Okay, hear me out on this one, okay? For the tone of the old Batman movie and TV show, this suit is basically perfect. Is it absolutely ridiculous? Yes. But that is exactly what this show needed. Like, I love how his mask is always a little misaligned with his eyes. So sometimes he'll be giving this dramatic line reading, and it's just, it's so funny.
1. What has yellow skin and rights?
A ballpoint banana.
Right. 2. What people are always in a hurry?
Russian people? Russians.
Right again.
It's not a perfect suit, but it's perfect for this show. Number 80. I think this costume looks pretty good. My biggest complaint about it is the mask looks so much like Deadpool's to the point where it's distracting. And apparently it's the same costume designer, so that makes sense. But knowing The Rock and the fact that he produced this movie, I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted it to look similar for marketing purposes. It's just so distracting. Number 79. Remember how I said I would prefer non-comic accurate suits for the X-Men if they had a strong art direction? This is what I was talking about. At the time this came out, would I have preferred original comic accurate costumes? I don't know, man. I was 1 when this movie came out. But what I do know is that looking back on them, they're pretty cool. If you ignore what could have been, I like these. I think that they work in the context of this movie. I don't know if they work better than traditional suits, but these aren't bad just because they don't look like the original costumes. Number 78. I think these two are tied, but if I had to pick, I think the one from her show is a little better. The costume from the comics is a little goofy, and I think they translated it pretty well. Number 77. I think that the Daredevil movie took that leather edginess from the X-Men movies, but also I think was more willing to embrace some of the more comic bookiness of it. And I think it works a little better. It's still not amazing, but I do think that it is the best looking version of the Daredevil suit that we've had in live action so far. Again, I do think it's weird that an acrobat is wearing tight leather, but it is what it is. I think it looks all right. Number 76. The CW Flash costume looks pretty good, except again, they fucked it up and his head looks huge. And also, it kind of looks like the sort of thing you would see at like DC World at Six Flags when they have a character meet and greet. But it's the CW, so I'll give it a pass. Overall, I think this is a pretty solid attempt at a Flash costume. Number 75. People might be upset that the Christopher Nolan Batman suit landed so low on this list, but let me explain myself. I like a thick-necked Batman, but this is a little excessive. And also, I don't love that it's all black except the belt. I think there needs to be some sort of differential color here with the symbol or something, because otherwise it gets lost. I think this version of the suit specifically is just this weird middle ground between a comic book suit and something that feels like a Christopher Nolan film. Number 74. Okay, if people weren't mad about where I put the Christian Bale costume before, they definitely are now. Like I said with the Robin costume, I think tonally this costume fits perfectly within the show that it's for. It would never work in any other version of Batman that we've had, but it's perfect here. Anytime Adam West gives this serious-ass monologue wearing this costume, I think it is the funniest thing that has ever been put on film.
A solemn moment, gentlemen. One of dedication and humble supplication. Robin, prepare to rehydrate.
Ready to rehydrate.
Turn on the water faucet.
Number 73, we got Captain America from the Winter Soldier. Listen, you've probably picked up by now that I like superhero suits with some color in them. And that's true, but I think this suit looks really good. It's sleek and it's clean, and I think it works really well for the story that it's in. If they kept it as is moving forward, I maybe would be a little upset, but I think for a one-time deal, I think it works really well. Number 72. I respect this suit for taking some big swings, but I don't know if it paid off super well. At the time, I hated this costume, but I do think it's grown on me a little bit since then. And I don't know if we'll ever get a mainline Spider-Man suit that's this unique again, for better or worse. Number 71, Mr. Fantastic and Multiverse of Madness. This is about as stereotypical, over-designed MCU style as you could possibly expect, but I kind of like it in this context because this isn't the version of Reed that we're going to see later. It's what the audience would expect Reed to look like. And then he gets turned to spaghetti. So if you like it or not, it doesn't really matter. We get to move on. All right, guys. So it turns out there's a lot of superhero suits. So this is the bottom half of the list. And next time, we're going to go through the top half and talk about the top superheroes of all time. Sorry to leave it on a cliffhanger. I'm going to try to get that video out as soon as possible after this one so you don't have to wait too long, but I didn't want this to be like an hour. So we're just going to hop right back into it next time. Thank you for watching. Reminder, if you like superheroes, I have an Etsy shop with superhero-related stickers as well as other things. Check them out if you want. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you want to, I guess. See you next time. Goodbye!